Welcome. My name is Kelby, Executive Director for HISAdvocates. As you see below, this is episode 327. We have back with us, I don't want to say by popular demand, because I saw a bunch of comments that you guys made on YouTube, and it was some good points, some laughable, and everybody's got these different opinions over the subject matter that we were bringing up. But super happy to have her back. Retired Lieutenant Colonel Sandra Miarecki. I hope I did. Don't laugh at me. Dang, I know I blew that one. Anyway, we're going to go over a lot of, she's got a great background. She's very interesting. She has a background like you guys wouldn't believe. But if you missed the last show, you got to go see it, because she has a different opinion than the average bear, and doesn't agree with some of the normal conspiracies that are out there. And she's got some valid counter reasoning and things to actually consider. And I read her responses to some of the people that made some generic claims as to why the flat earth is absolute, this, that, and the other. Anyway, I just want to say first, welcome back to the stage. Thank you for coming back. Miarecki.
It's really close.
Miarecki.
I usually tell people to skip one of the first vowels, and then it makes sense.
Miarecki.
Really close.
All right. You're not going to even say it. You're disappointed in me so bad right now.
You can only imagine, after 50 plus years, how many different ways.
Listen, I'm afraid to say what they've called me when I was a kid. Like, I used to be a small kid because I was put in school early. Mm-hmm. But some of the names that I got called led me into who I am today, because I was defending myself like you wouldn't believe. But I feel you. I get you. All right. So we went into a myriad of subject matter last week, and we completely missed the focal points that we were trying to get to. And you have a stellar background in the United States military, the Air Force to be specific. You then retired and went back to school, got your doctorate in physics. And you have a different perspective on things, but at the same time, God kind of shook you and woke you up in a lot of different areas. And one of them was what we are as a nation, a republic. One of them was what you can be as an individual, as a state citizen, and other. And we just started talking about your experiences in life in Antarctica and some different things. And, nobody agrees on 100% of everything. So, you've been to Antarctica. I haven't. I've read some books, and that's my best way that I can form an opinion. And that's all it'll ever be, because there's no fact pattern behind it, because I was never there. I'm not a firsthand material fact witness. So all the people that are poo-pooing your opinions of Antarctica, there are some different ways to look at it. There are some different things. But the point being, you're a firsthand material fact witness. And at least that's something to take into consideration. And that's kind of why why I'm enjoying the conversation, because your experience on different subject matter. So first, let's just get to the nuts and bolts. Donald Trump. He, in my opinion, was the best president this nation has ever had from an action standpoint on what he did up until the Operation Warp Speed. And I know there's a lot of opinion about that, and I don't really want to get into that element, because we won't be able to keep it on certain platforms. Right. But I watched him do things no other president did. I watched the power brokers. Now, look, when I say power brokers, I mean the people trying to bring about the world order, the cabal, if you will, the deep state operatives. Trump has been from the very beginning talking about deep state. Trump has been from the very beginning talking about very conspiratorial things Then you have this whole thing about Q and the QAnoners, the people that believed in Q. And then you have the post rhetoric from the media denying and saying that, if you're a QAnon or if you're a Trump or you're obviously a terrorist. Now, this is, I had friends working at the DOD at the time when all this was going on, like around January 6th, when that event happened. And the element at the top of the DOD was so pro Biden and so anti-Trump, it was ridiculous. And to me, that speaks to the nature of how infiltrated we are. Because I've seen, and this isn't a conspiracy, I've seen the Biden pics where his mask malfunctions. I've seen him scratching his neck and moving the mask. I've seen the attachment of the earlobes where when he was younger it was not attached, it was detached. And people could say, oh, that's just a facelift, that's just whatever. More importantly, what I'm seeing is the horrific crime spree that's happening through his son, the nature of the pornography, pedophilia, sniffs. His own daughter's listen to me. This is his own daughter's diary that she is scared to death of him coming into the shower while she's taking a shower. Those are real statements, not from me, from his daughter, and I have concern. And what we are seeing, in my opinion, is a stage, and we're seeing acts, and we're seeing the complete control of the media. Now, first, with full disclosure, I know artificial intelligence can make a movie now in a matter of seconds. I know that it can reproduce my face, my voice, and have an entirely new conversation. I know that many movie stars are very upset that there's advertisers that are using their likeness with and to sell their products, and it's working. And they're suing the companies that use their likeness and their voice, to stream and or sell products or services. So that stuff is very real, and we have to consider that. I mean, we can't trust anything that we see anymore. So we can't trust anything. So we have to form opinions like, even when Donald Trump was talking about quote unquote vaccines, could that be him, or is that a staged thing? I don't know, but I do know he said he took the Pfizer shot. I do know that he personally invested in Moderna. And those are quite disturbing, just in my opinion, of things that were unbecoming of a president, because they are very much a conflict when you're saying you have to do something. And so first, let's just take the platform of what are you thinking right now in respect to what's going on in the realm of, is he really still acting president? This is rumor mill number one. Conspiracy theory up here, but not so conspiratorial when you see the full motorcade of an acting president that's everywhere he goes. He's got a full motorcade of an acting president. That, coupled with the fact that when Biden supposedly won, he was getting in a 747 that said Air Force One on it. What are your thoughts?
You opened up about, 15 different topics there.
Where do I start? I don't know.
How much time do we got?
As much as you want.
I want to say at the very beginning that I consider myself a pure scientist. So what that means is all theories are on the table. And what I do is I listen to a variety of podcasters, experts. I'm reading the journal articles. I stuff myself full of information. And I let my brain kind of chew on it for a little while. And every once in a while, it'll spit something out. So that's how I run, the things that we're going to talk about here today. I give things a probability. If, let's say, CNN says something, I give it a really low weight, like 10% possibly be truth. But it still gets filed, and because you always want to watch the enemy, it's this Sun Tzu, you want to, know your enemy, know thyself, and then all battles will be victorious, or something along those lines. I'm sure it was something different, but so the overall, there are some very compelling evidences, I guess, I don't know how to speak. There are. So some of the biggest ones are the actual inauguration day in January 20th of 2021. Derek Johnson, for those who are not aware of him and his channel, he is on Telegram, and it's Rattle Trap 1776. Rattle Trap 1776, no spaces. Everyone on your channel probably is already aware of him, but he is prior Army and very versed in what I would say customs and courtesies. So what does that mean? It means, how do you display a flag? How do you wear the uniform? When you have a group of individuals on the same duty, then everyone has the same uniform, down to the, whether you're all wearing gloves, you're not wearing gloves, you have the same cap, etc. Because there's so many varieties in uniforms. So when you look at Inauguration Day, there are huge inconsistencies, and Derek Johnson has pointed them out multiple times, over and over. The first one is that Trump actually got a 21-gun salute, which, as far as I know, never happened, according to Derek. I would have to go back to every single president and any video or film of them leaving office. They don't get that. But an incoming inaugurated president does. But he's getting this while he's leaving. Okay. Yet
President Trump was getting a 21-gun salute when he was leaving the office.
When that's not supposed to technically happen. It's supposed to be when you're going into office.
Okay.
So there's that one piece of data. The second one is, well, then what happened with Biden? Well, you already alluded to this, and I think a lot of people already know. They look at the old pictures of the Vice President Biden, which are being erased from the internet, quite interestingly.
Yeah, they are.
And it's harder and harder to find. But when you put them side by side, you go, that's not the same guy. They can lie all they want and say it's plastic surgery, but it's like, no way. You might say, well, that kind of looks like a younger brother, maybe, And we talked about the greatest show on earth. And in fact, I put that link in the other video. If you go to Rumble and you do a search on the greatest show on earth, the very end of that hour and a half, I think, documentary on everything we're pretty much talking about now, they talk about the two actors that are likely the primary ones playing Biden right now. One probably more than the other, just because I think he sounds more like him. I would imagine that the second one, that maybe it's not quite as a good of a copy, maybe we see him with the mask so that his voice is kind of disguised behind the mask, and so then people don't know what's going on. According to Derek Johnson, well, you can look at the videos. Biden did not get a 21-gun salute at the inauguration. He did go to Arlington Cemetery for a, honoring the soldiers or something. And there he got a funeral ceremony. So the press is saying, oh, and he's getting a 21-gun salute, but yet Arlington Cemetery's own website says, when you have this sequence of canon or whatever. This is actually a funeral service. And it would be appropriate for someone going to honor, the men and women who fought for the country and are buried there. Mm-hmm. But he didn't ever, in any other time during that day, get a 21 gun salute. On top of that, he started the inauguration started like 15 minutes early. That's never happened before. And it was quite obviously videotaped and then played. We have 100% evidence behind that because in Europe, they played the replay of the inauguration and got their time zones wrong, and they played it an hour too early. So they played the tape of the inauguration before the inauguration actually happened somewhere in Europe. That's a really good trick. It's like a time zone, time machine, kind of thing. So there's a lot of really questionable stuff that happened on that day that throws everything else afterwards into question. So I would challenge people to go to Derek Johnson's channel, Rattle Trap 1776.
Okay.
On Telegram, and read what he has written. So if anyone else knows about another patriot called Patel Patriot and his devolution theory, so evolution with a D in the front, that has a lot to do with what Derek talks about as well. And at first they kind of clashed, like, who are you to come along and whatever. But now I think they're pretty much on the same page. They kind of like get all the emotions out of the way and just analyze, okay, you're saying this. Did you note that it was this, executive order that kind of plugs into that? And then once they started to compare notes, they go, oh, you're right. We are kind of on the same page here. And it's nice to see that these two people came at it from different angles, but are coming to the same conclusions in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that there is what do I want to say here? Not interim government, continuation of government, a COG, where there is a president of the U.S. corporation. We talked about the corporation last time. And Biden is supposedly the president of the corporation, just like the president of McDonald's or the CEO of, whatever, Boeing. And so that's what Biden's job is right now.
Shut down and yeah, there's a ton of, and for the record, people, because not to mean to interrupt you, but Sandy, nobody knows this stuff. They don't know that in the law, the United States is exclusively in the District of Columbia, and that there is a jurisdiction of a U.S. citizen and there's a jurisdiction of a citizen of a state.
Right.
Just to touch on, and we'll go right back to what you're saying. I want to share a screen real quick, just to touch on. Look at this. This is
Joe Biden. Yeah.
This is Joe Biden.
Mm-hmm.
This I don't know when this was. This is Joe Biden throughout time. Here he is in 87, 2007, very different guy. And in 2019, and then all of these earlobes, and even in a more today, earlobes with the define, and then you got this guy here. There's no earlobes, and look. You got Joe Biden, scratching his neck, and these are just, do with this what you will, everyone. I get it. This is conspiracy gone wild, but and this isn't even a clear picture. This is him scratching his neck, and that was the afterplay of it.
Yeah, it's like a wrinkle that got put there, and then it like slowly let itself out, the wrinkle. And it's like,
Right.
that's not how skin behaves.
No. And then there's this picture of his chin malfunction.
Yeah.
This was like a couple weeks ago. Look at this.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. Come on. Look at this. Either that is a reptilian lizard underneath there, and that's what they're saying, not Kelby. That's what those conspiracy nut jobs out there are saying. But in the middle of a conversation, the padding in his chin either slipped down or whatever, and this was revealed.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little creepy.
Yeah.
That's a little creepy. This is the acting president of the world,
Kind
of
of.
the strongest nation in the world, who's malfunctioning at every level. He's tripping, he's falling, he's molesting, he can't find the podium. You know, why would they want to let that portray that? That's the question for me. If you're going to put up an actor, why not just get a young man in there that portrays strength? So what is the objective to portray weakness at the top of the corporation? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mentioned this, I think, last time, and it was one of those moments when, all this data, all this information going in, and the little computer in my brain going chick, 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 ding.
Yeah.
And it spits out this idea, and I go, and it actually hurt. Sometimes when I get some of these calculations coming out, and it's like, ow. And it's all on purpose. That the actor who is portraying Biden, the primary one, I mean, I think there are more than one, but the primary one, is actually not senile. He doesn't trip over everything. He's acting, and he is doing Academy Award acting to be this completely decrepit, incompetent old man. And I think he's under orders from Trump's people. And the reason why I think my brain came up with that, and this was before Derek Johnson was talking about it. It's been about 2 years that my brain came up with this. And then everything else that I've been watching after that. Now, could it be possible that one or two of the things that he's done wrong was accidental? Yeah, sure. I just think that there's so many things that he's doing so obviously wrong. And for everyone who knows the movie The Truman Show with Jim Carrey, I do that all the time, Jim Carrey. This is a global Truman Show.
It kind of forecasted. Yeah, go ahead.
I can't even, as soon as I came up with that, I went, all right, we'll test that theory. And so then everything that I watched after that, so then this new piece of data comes in, and this new piece.
Be clear on what the new piece of data was, because it's unclear for even me.
I'm just saying
that Trump is in control.
That every time I see something, that this fake Biden is being told to do these things.
Whether cabal or Trump.
I think Trump or his team.
Okay, so let's play that out just in a dialogue here.
Sure.
How does Trump? Isn't he a part of the problem when he's doing this?
Kind of, because he knew that they were going to set up the election because they had done such a great job in 2016, just not a good enough job to overcome the American people and the actual votes. So I think there was a deal struck, and I think there was a timeline put onto this plan. And Trump and his team, whoever's, actually running him, because I don't think it's just him. I think we talked a little bit about the Army of Virginia last time, I think, the folks that recruited him to be the next...
the generals.
Yeah, the generals.
Retired generals.
And so I think that he's like, all right, you guys are going to cheat so bad. We're going to have all the evidence we would ever need to hang you for treason. no problem. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and run your plan like you're planning, except I'm going to have you have this actor playing Biden, because we pretty much think the real one was murdered sometime a while ago. I mean, this is like, there's so many theories out there about Mossad took him out, and
murdered,
Ukraine took him out, and for breaking a deal, and whatever. And so he's so dirty, anyone could have taken him out for whatever. So they had to have a fake one anyway. So the reason why I say all this is because then after that epiphany, I started to look at everything else a little differently. And I started to see how puzzle pieces that didn't make any sense, like the big red Nazi Germany, we will crush you speech that he made. Remember this with the military in the background? Do you remember this speech? I mean, who can forget this speech, right? It was like the big red and black background. It looked like he was like, going to give a sacrifice to Moloch or something. And Derek Johnson caught on the uniforms of the guys standing behind Biden weren't right. And it's impossible for him to have the military behind him at that moment, what he was doing, because it violates so many U.S. codes and military codes and laws and etiquette and all that. And of course, the uniforms would match perfectly because you're representing the president here, right? And so then why is everything so in your face, excessive? Like, it's not subtle anymore, right? It's like, it's out there. And only thing I could come up with is because they need to wake up the American people. And at the time I had this epiphany, they claim that Biden had something like a 45% approval rating. And the latest one that I've heard a couple of weeks ago was like 8.5% approval rating. Globally. Well, at least
mainstream media.
US, but yeah. And that's mainstream media saying it.
That's what I meant.
That was way worse than that. So in other words, a successful operation, in my opinion, because everyone needed to see just what a turd he really is.
But it's not him. And it's Trump, according to you.
But he's representing everything that Biden is or was. He was a pedophile. He was a criminal. He was a traitor. And so...
was incompetent. Was never got anything done in 35 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Goes with the flow, whatever's going to get him reelected or to get him a contract or to, whatever. And so instead of hiding that, I think, again, this is my
let's
theory.
Act them out in the public. That's your opinion. Let's act them out in the public.
Right out and put it on
let's
display.
do every raw deal that we can possibly do to turn this country upside down, just to wake up the American people.
Yeah.
Just to wake them up.
So as soon as that happened and I started watching the events occurring one by one, I went, boy, this just fits right in.
They can't release that data, because if they did, then everybody would say, well, our guy would have actually done a great job if he was allowed to,
Oh, you mean the real Biden?
Correct.
Yeah, but I don't.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying. People want to believe whatever they want to believe. Just to hate Trump. And look, I don't take a position as a Republican. If anything, I don't vote because I don't believe in it, and I'm not a party to the United States anymore. I'm not a body politic of artificial persons, which nobody understands what I just said, which is what you're doing when you're voting in the United States. You're giving up your sovereignty, your this, that, and the other. But the reason why I'm saying all that is I don't take a position on Donald Trump. Is it's a very controversial thing. I would support the crud out of the guy, except for what happened at the very end there. And what's happening right now is people are suffering from whoever it is that's doing that. Mm-hmm. And I can't can't promote that. And so the games and the game playing is at a level so high that you to me, it seems that AI is obviously in control already, and AI is playing, probably fully in charge of the media, probably completely rogue. Or that singularity event that they all say took place in 2015 actually did take place. And what does that leave us? Because all the information is coming out is so overwhelming on the left, so overwhelming on the right, that it leaves the American people unsettled, unsure what to believe, completely disorganized, hating one another, and focused on Israel and Palestine and Ukraine instead of what's going on right now, which is our nation is being subverted. Right. And so with that all being said, the only controls that I can do are my belief system of a republic that's still here, my belief system of teaching people about state citizenship, teaching people about who they are as self-governed men and women and what that actually means. You know, and I had a troll like the other day hit YouTube, and he went off and he said, "This is total BS, total malarkey. You know nothing about what you're saying." And I said, "Really?" And I gave a few Supreme Court rulings, and he said, "These are old law. These are this. These are that. They have nothing to do." I'm like, actually, they're shepherdized, and because you probably don't know what shepherdized means, and I had to explain it in a sarcastic, loving fashion. Long story short, the nation is divided. Yeah. You can't even get people who are watching a Patriot channel to agree with the content of the Patriot channel provider. You can't even get people to agree on anything. Mm-hmm. Is it national? Is it state national? Or is it what is in the law, state citizenship? Is it United States citizen and let's use the usufruct against the country and we'll be safe from arrest? I mean, it's stupidity. And I'm sick of watching it. But what do I know? I know the word and I know the law. And I can operate in those, in my opinion, with 100% safety. Mm-hmm. How do you think Trump, give a percentage opinion, how do you think Trump's going to play into this in the next year?
Well, I'm probably as confused as you are as to where it's all going to go, basically because we've been seeing the signs of total collapse of the corporation for such a long time. And we're just saying, how is this country still alive after everything that's happened? 33.8 trillion in debt.
Way more than that. But yeah, that's the.
We're just looking at the U.S. debt clock 2 seconds ago. I should have looked even closer, but.
No. The U.S. debt clock is emitting, here, let me pull it up for everybody. Debt clock. The U.S. debt clock, it's not talking about the unfunded liabilities. It's just talking about the net sum of debt. Yeah. Yeah. Here's the national debt is 34 trillion, which I don't think that's truthful. I think it's way, way higher in the 250 trillion range.
Well, everyone's probably wondering what's the stuff on the front, and that is every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday now from 6 p.m. to midnight Eastern time. These secret messages have been popping up on the debt clock, which is something that never happened before October 1st of this year, which is a little bizarre because it's, fiscal year 2024. And so there's these like little educational cartoons. Sometimes it's Lincoln saying that he feared the bankers behind him more than the Southern Army in front of him during the Civil War. The last one on Tuesday was about how gold is the real money and the Federal Reserve notes are fake. The divergence of our currency value compared to reality and how that diverged as soon as Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, which happened to be 100 years after the Act of 1871, which got us into all this trouble to begin with. Underneath this little cartoon, there's some other numbers when this goes away tomorrow that shows the Social Security requirements and the pension requirements and the other unfunded requirements and tuition and the average debt per citizen, the average credit card debt per citizen. All this stuff is all in here. The states, you can click on the ones on the bottom. You can get to the states and what the states' debt is. It's just ginormous. So,
what's it say gold is worth now? Because I can't see it. I think they moved it.
Well, it's, if you would like to check, like just a, gold.com or something, it would probably be around 1980 something.
No, but the debt clock always gave the
right.
gold.
So that's on the far right side with the red arrow, and that's this weird number that showed up January 1st of this year. That is showing the amount of dollar supply or something like that. I'm trying
dollar
to remember.
supply to silver ratio 5-year,
Right.
$1,557 per ounce.
Right.
Dollar supply to ratio on a 10-year, I believe, bond is 1,120 per ounce. Gold,
right. So predictions.
a dollar ratio of a 5-year yield, meaning I think it's a bond yield, is 12,591. Meaning this is what it should be as to the dollars that have been created in the United States.
Right. And that's showing just how bad the inflation is, and they're keeping it under wraps. The next column to the left of that, though, has a bunch of numbers where it says dollar to gold to dollar ratio, or I don't remember what it says now, but it's 0. Do you see those?
Yeah, right here.
And so when you click on it and you check, why is it 0? And it's because it's actually negative, the way that it's calculated. So this debt clock is a huge educational tool for just the average American. And now with these cartoons showing up with quotes from Lincoln and Jackson and founding fathers, and how the central banks have been the enemy of our country for such a long time. And it's a real interesting coincidence, as to why they just started doing this. And that's what's made a lot of patriots think that we must be right on the verge of something major happening. Either the total collapse of the corporation, and therefore the need for the republic to step back in, at least as an interim government, until we can get a real elected republic back in place with honest elections. It just, everyone that I talk to, and I talk to a lot of people in a variety of career fields and expertise, everybody thinks that, well, especially like in the summer, that by the end of this year, oh my gosh, we're going to be, something major is going to happen. Here we are in November already. So it just keeps getting propped up and, slap another coat of white paint on it and some duct tape and baling wire. We don't know what's holding everything together, because it is literally falling apart before our eyes.
For the record, I thought the financial markets were going to collapse in 1819. That was 5 years ago. Everything that they're doing in the markets, in the bond markets, and the is all Federal Reserve driven, policy driven. They literally have teams that are manipulating the stock market on a full-time basis, pumping it, doing things to hold things up. You will actually see the manipulation. There's videos out there that will show you how they are manipulating the stock market, the bond markets. And they're doing the same with the real estate markets. BlackRock, the big 3 companies in the world that own everything, went out and started buying. What's that?
It's so bad that BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street own each other.
Yeah. So those companies started buying up all the real estate in America at the tune of 150% the value. And I just sat down and I started asking myself the question: what is the reasons economically for them to spend 50% on an item more than the actual item is worth. And the only thing that I could come up with in my head was they needed to get rid of cash and put it in something solid. Number one. Number two, own nothing, control everything. Number three, you will own nothing and you will like it. Number four, and the big one is they know of a coming change in currency, and which means it's all valuations on today's perspectives in dollars versus what it could be totally different in the future. So they know something, and the fifth one is they're driving the market up on purpose, because the more people that are in a low interest rate loan that is 1.5 million average house here in California, 1 million to 1.5 million. When the taxes go up, you won't be able to pay the taxes. You won't be able to pay your mortgage. You won't, when the jobs go away, the inflation is through the roof, the taxes are through the roof. And even though you got a 2-3% loan, you're not going to be able to afford the house. And they're going to come and gobble all that back up. And then they're going to come up with programs to rent you back, whatever. But you got to move into the inner city and share a house with 3 other families, whatever.
Right. And
those
take all our injections and drive an electric vehicle and
correct.
all the other requirements.
Yeah, correct. And here's the thing that sucks for us, Sandra, is I'm wondering, I know what God's word says, and I know what's about to take place just based on what I'm seeing biblically and playing out in the real world. The chip, the mark, the world structure, the nuclear event in Israel. I'm seeing all that stuff play out now. It's just blowing my mind. Like how a document 2,000 years old, written over 2,300 years prophetically in a lot of cases, is so accurate. And you can presume some different events taking place. What you can't is a universal worldwide money system. Like, how would the Bible know that? How would the Bible know about a new world order? How would all these things? So you can see those things coming up, and because we're believers, let's just play this out for a sec. Are we, because we are, according to the Bible, we are the sons and daughters of God. We have, and according to the Bible, angels are jealous of us because we have the ability to create. Non-religious people, and I don't like that term, but non-religious people have figured out a thing called the law of attraction, where if you focus your time on something enough in your mind, you can manifest this, that, and the other. The Bible confirms that there are people that were able to heal within the Bible that didn't even have a relationship with God, but they used the name of God and were able to manifest a healing with the name of Yeshua. My point is I'm wondering, is all this to drive our focus on these negative outcomes so we actually accept it, live it out, and create it ourselves? And that's always been one of my questions, because I'm watching these theories of relativity from a standpoint of we live in different dimensions all together at the same time, and that my world or my life can be different than your world and your life and go different paths at the same time. And I hear of all these these hypotheticals, and I'm like, that's just so unreal to me. Can we just live here together? And the point I'm trying to make is I don't want to get lost in theories, and I don't want to, even though I know what the word says, I have the ability to pray against it because I know that's even biblical. Meaning, I don't need to be a part of the world order. I don't need to be a part of the debt society. I can do Revelations 18:4 and come out, and I could live separate and not under the judgments of the plagues. There are things that I can do that, if the Bible is 100% authentic and correct, prophetically, historically, and I can't say that it isn't. Listen, that's one thing I can't say that it isn't. Then do I need to write out what pastors are teaching? The answer is no, because the pastors aren't teaching all the stuff that I have learned over the last few years. They're teaching Romans 13. You better be obedient to that unlawful, unruly government, because that's what you deserve, because this nation has been judged and we are about to go through it together because we have been judged. And that's not what Romans 13 is about. Mm-hmm. In 2 Peter 2:13, you must be obedient to every form of human government. That's not what it says. You may be required, and that's not me. Romans 13, in my humble opinion, is very clear for a person in this nation who is an American, who's a state citizen. Self-governance is me right now here, not being obedient to anybody but God. I'm self-governed. As a matter of fact, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were created to withstand and uphold my God-given unalienable rights, to push the government away. And how they nailed everybody was making them an employee of the United States. And now policy, code, and procedure is more important than the law, because now you've elected to get a few bennies in lieu of what you actually have under God directly. And so that's what pastors should be teaching. And so if we had that, we would have a nation divided no matter what. I would see a nation divided, and we would have a few people living large in very lavish, beautiful, protected areas. And then the other people would be living in these inner cities scared to death, submitting themselves under man, and even Christians. Even people that have a relationship with the Lord, because their pastors lied to them, unfortunately misrepresented the truth because they didn't know any better. Some lied, some misrepresented, some, didn't know any better. And so I see us right now creating our own destinies. And I want to be a king for God. I want to do whatever it takes as king. And because that's what the word says, why not play it out right here, right now? I don't need to wait. I want to do whatever I can for God here, right now, and help this nation, because this nation, even all those Trumpers, are a bunch of complaining U.S. citizens that are the bonded surety collateral for the debt of a defunct nation or a corporation of the United States. They are going to be collected on, wrangled up, and put into FEMA camps. And this is not only what they have been advertising and saying they're going to do, but we are in the default, let's liquidate the assets, and the people are on the hook now. So how fast can we re-inhabit the republic? How fast can we create state citizens? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And where's the dang military, man? Why we should have a military, even if it's half of them, we should have the military saying, man, I want to do what's right before God. I want to do what's right before. But they are the military industrial complex. They're the killers of the world. Not all of them, but they've been going around the world wreaking havoc for 150 years in the United States. When are they going to have that epiphany and go, oh, snap, we're in trouble. God's pissed. Let's go and find the people in the republic, and let's act like we're supporting them so God isn't pissed at us anymore. Right. You think that's ever going to happen?
Well, you just loaded me up with a whole bunch more stuff here.
Yeah.
Let me summarize in a very short sentences. I think that we would probably all agree that God's word, the most important thing in the Bible is God's law. In fact, so many of the lessons that you'll see in the Bible is the law of God, and that we follow it. So if there's ever a decision or whatever that you need to make and you're not remembering the Bible verses, just remember that one piece, that the law is above everything else. It follow God's law. So with that, the next piece would be all of the things that have been happening to us have been trying to disconnect us from God. There is an energy, we talk about God's love and that God is in all of us, and that is true. But I think it's even more beautiful and complicated than that. I think that when we all focus on the same thing, the same goals, there is an energy that comes from all of us.
100%.
Kind of like the acorn, how does the acorn become this giant oak tree? It's got to be channeling some kind of energy, right? And so if we can get back to God's law and reconnecting with each other and with God, I think we're going to be a lot more successful than we are now. It'll probably also help to melt away all those issues that you just talked about. Well, you're Lutheran, you're Protestant, you're Catholic, and we can't get along or understand each other or, work together, because we get all locked up about the differences instead of about the similarities. Now we talk about the Republic, which really is God's country. I mean, God created this Republic. The Founding Fathers' papers were very clear about the influence that they felt during those meetings. The story is about Saint Germain actually being at the events and convincing them to sign the paperwork, and that when the Republic was essentially abandoned in roughly 61, when the states started leaving the Union and we had the Civil War, that's when really the Republic fell apart. And then Lincoln created this thing called executive government, which was really the start of the corporation. And then the Act of 1871 sealed that deal. And that brought our military, 150 years you just mentioned, into this, where we're really not in charge. So where is our military right now? So first of all, we got to fix the Republic. Let's talk the military, because you mentioned that too. Just like every other problem in this world, it is actually the leadership that's the problem, not the people. The Russian people are wonderful people. The Ukrainian people are wonderful people. But the leadership, possibly the leadership of the militaries, of all the various groups around the world, they've all been taken over and or coerced and or somehow not on our side anymore. And so we are fighting a global cabal. I call it a global Truman Show. We are being, and I'm hoping it's all going in a good direction. It's just the matter, we've got to go into this really bad zone with all this really bad stuff happening, the threat of nuclear war, and Israel is committing suicide because of all the things that it's doing to anger all the countries that are surrounding it, so that it will be fighting an all-front war because of what they're doing. And it's some people would say Netanyahu is, of course, the worst guy in the world, and he's actually causing the death of all of the Israeli people because of these things that he's supposedly doing. And his people are mad as hell. There's so many protests and things and anger, but they're also the most injected people on the planet.
Oh, that's for sure.
They're dying and getting very sick, and they need to cover that up. So, because people are still actually taking the shots.
Wait a minute. I'm surprised you said that, and I'm actually a little taken back by that comment, because that's a plausible reason for a war in a nation that went through that, is to send the kids and weaken the military at the same time, which does a whole lot for that region who's trying to kick out Israel. And it does a whole lot for this region. I just heard a gentleman, I don't want to say his name because the last time he did a seminar, he was wrong. But he wrote a couple books on relocation. Again, I don't want to say his name. But he he has a really grim outlook for all of this. And his hypothesis is we're entering into a nuclear age. There will be a nuclear war. Major cities in the United States will be dumped on. There will be devastation. The military in the United States will not be able to protect its own borders. We will be taken over from within. And he just leveled. His thoughts were just so far out there that it's like, okay, that's a way to take out a nation real quick. You know, how does Trump turn all of that around when I haven't seen one thing, not one, of positive evidence to the contrary of a downfall of this nation in the last 3 years? I haven't seen anything stopping the actions of the cabal and the corporations from doing what they're doing to dismantle this nation. I haven't seen anything. I've heard of some things, but I haven't seen anything that is substantive that would lead me to believe Trump is in power and the military is behind him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. My current assessment, again, in probabilities and with all the data that's come in, is that the leadership of the active duty military, what we would call Army, Air Force, Marine, Navy, is compromised. And they are working for the cabal, the enemy, and trying to bring us down. But the Guard, so the National Guard, the Air National Guard, the folks that are at the state level, I think they're our hope right now. A lot of them didn't take the shots. And there's information coming out about friends of mine whose neighbors are in Guard units at various leadership levels. And they've been activated since October of 2020. And when you're activated, that means you're federalized, right? You're no longer state assets, you're now national federal assets. And that can happen for, I believe it's a year at a time, and then it has to be renewed. Well, Trump's not president of the corporation. And so it's up to Biden to renew those orders. And he has renewed those orders. Again, this goes back to who's playing the part and who's controlling the puppet. Why would Biden continue to renew the orders that activated the Guard? On top of that, in the October timeframe, very beginning of October of this year, certain Guard units became more active, getting more people, moving leadership on base, where normally they would have been off base, living in their own homes, and then going in on the weekends or whatever. Indications showing that something was about to happen in October, and then nothing happened. But then we got the Israel-Gaza situation. So is this move and counter move? Maybe. Is this the distraction that kind of stopped an effort that was about to happen by the good guys? Maybe. I don't have enough information. I'm living on scraps, breadcrumbs, I call it, right? I get a lot of little breadcrumbs from a whole bunch of different sources, and I'm trying to make sense out of it using the paradigm that I just explained to you that my brain came up with a while ago. I seem to have this feeling that there is something going on, good guys, somewhere working in our favor, just not as fast as any of us want it to be. And the thing I have to keep telling myself is they really are our only hope, because I don't see how you and me could do this, and people like us, other than showing up at the local National Guard or Armory and talking about what are we going to do first, what are we going to do second, as a people, as the militia, as the Constitution talks about. Now we're talking civil war.
And I just heard that today. There's a lot of people asking this question publicly, and it could put somebody on a terrorist. This is not my opinion. I kind of feel the emotions behind this in a big way. But the question was from the guys that, when are we going to start shooting?
Yeah, that was the video I saw as well. It was like a city council meeting or a patriot meeting of some kind, and the people kind of not laughed at first, but there was like a kind of a sound that came from the audience, and he says, "No, wait, listen to me for a second. According to the Constitution, when our government goes rogue and out of control, it is our duty as the people to take it under control." Was it the Declaration? I thought, okay, you might be right. And so when are we going to start shooting? In other words, he recognizes that the government's out of control. It's gone rogue. It's no longer our government. And now it's our duty to fix it. So I think it's a valid point, and I think that it is the feeling of a large majority of people in the Patriot movement. I keep telling my contacts that maybe don't have their finger on this pulse, and I say, you better do something pretty quick, because these words are coming out of patriots now, and they're serious. And it's not like, emotional, we have to go and take, no, this is like measured determination of what's the next step, because we're running out of options. And I think a lot of people feel this. So I seriously 100% was sure something was going to happen big time. Like, finally we get a sign that something on our side is happening. We've got these guys on our side, and they're working on our side, and this is what's going on behind the scenes by the end of this year. Now it's November, and I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen.
I keep thinking they're playing us, keeping us calm, shooting all this rhetoric out there, letting information leaked, and then they're going to make the nation potentially, here's the rumor, go dark. A strike force attack on, with an EMP. For the record, I've got a EMP and a generator. I got an EMP filter, so if we get hit, supposedly my generator's still going to turn on. I'll still have power. Who knows? What will that look like, being the only guy in the neighborhood with power? That's when you need to have 100 guns. But the bottom line is, 100 people. Bottom line for Sandra, I don't really feel like we've hit the core, because you said something, and you were right in the physical. You said the military is our only hope, and I think that the reality is we have a much bigger hope that I see playing into this, that is obviously the ace in the hole. I see having to go through a lot of stuff. I'm not sure it's going to be, I see judgment, definitely. I'm not sure it's going to be like what people think. I think it's going to be more radical, swift, global, and then I see God. Now, is the Republic God's government that he is going to use when he sets up his kingdom here on earth? We've had that question. We've talked about those things as the Republic, as the people. Who knows? One of the things that I'm looking for right now is a glimmer of hope, like Lot. You know, Lord, 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 if not be one righteous, will you spare? Yes, 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 I'll spare. There wasn't one righteous found, and obviously none of us can be righteous without Christ. I know there's a lot of people listening to this going, you guys are so religious and so spiritual, and so, you're way out there, and you're thinking, I'm going to tell people right now to your face, you have no idea that all this is playbook to bring the word of God to life and to get you into a chip, to be monitored, managed, and owned so that your DNA is changed, and you will forever not be marked with the gene of God as the prodigy of a child of God, because you've altered it. And according to man's law, it's called cDNA. Now you're patentable, and they can chip you without your permission, and you will do what they say, because that chip will work with the other nanotechnologies. And it's about as far as I can go without getting kicked off of some platform. But the bottom line is everything is moving towards that, and it's all, and you hear all the stuff happening in the background, and none of it's coming. Well, some of it is, like the QAnon stuff. Some of the Q stuff is coming to light. Is the whole QAnon thing? Is that a sysop?
It's hard to know. I kind of go back and forth on that one every other day or so. Because Q is its own thing, and
Right.
Anon is its own thing. And it's the enemy who is those QAnon conspiracy theorists, they turn it into some swear word,
Which gives it credence.
Yeah, it does, because they're attacking it, right?
Right.
So, is the Republic God's Republic? Based upon the stories that I've heard of the folks that were actually there when they re-inhabited the Republic in 2010, and then started to deliver the documents in 2012 to the various international organizations.
I was a part of that. I was a part of that. I'm proud to say I was a part of that.
Felt an absolute power, energy, presence.
I told you that right
all of that was happening. Yeah, you're one of the other ones that have told me that. And it's multiple people that were at that event that have said the same thing. They could feel God's presence.
Right.
And that's what kept everyone going, that weekend or wherever that you guys were working. And now we're getting kind of signs and symbols of something as well. People within leadership, within the Republic, bringing up dreams that are happening, and possibly showing us signs of what to expect. I have myself felt a couple of things along those lines, not as strong as some of the other folks, but something that has kept my faith that we're on the right track. And we just need to get the American people to know who the Republic is, what we stand for, and to get them to sign up, which is just literally signing up for the email newsletter, and that's it. That's just shows your intent to be a part of the Republic. You don't even have to actually do anything, although we really do need help in getting all the other positions filled. I think that's pretty much where we're at right now, is stay alert. Oh, the churches. So the actual, I don't know how honest churches, I mean, God's actual churches, the ones that are actually still preaching the truth, they're seeing double, triple people coming in than they did, say, 2-3 years ago. So there is a revival going on right now in a lot of areas of the country and the world, I would think. People are turning back to God. a lot of them that maybe were taking God for granted, not really following the Bible and what the Bible says. And now they're taking it real seriously again, because I think they can feel it. Something is not quite right. We're all going to have to choose sides. There's going to be no gray zone here. It's going to be you're either on God's side or you're on Satan's side, and there's no in between. And so everyone needs to do their own assessment and figure out which side are they on. So did I answer the question? I'm forgetting now what the final question was you asked.
Well, I think you're close enough. I see, my prediction is I believe the people that did re-inhabit that republic specifically in 2010, 11, 12, I think the military that rises up from within, does a coup from within, hangs the people for treason when they have enough evidence, that were in leadership positions, and they're going to do a nationwide sweep of people. It's already been said that they've already done this. I don't necessarily believe it, but there's going to be a nationwide sweep of the cabal. I can tell you what the end of Revelation 6 says, and it's quite clear. The judgment of God came down hard upon the generals, the colonels, and they were hiding in the rocks and caves underground.
Of course.
And that's where they're at. And I see that taking place. And then the judgment of God will come upon the people. And I believe his people that were obedient and came out are going to be steered clear of many of the judgments, plagues, because they are not responsible for it. They walked away. They were no longer being a party to it, stood up, made a claim, an outward public claim, which is a lot of times what God is looking for, to say, we want nothing to do with this. And I see that republic getting picked up by the military and us going to work.
Waiting for that word now. That's the general feeling within the republic.
And I see myself signing over my position as fast as possible to somebody else.
I know, you and me both.
And just that's always been me. And just, it's too heavy. It's just heavy to know all this and know we've been a part of this and know we made the right decision to stand for God, for freedom, for republic, in the greatest nation in the world, and to walk away and stand in the republic for the United States of America, for the people. And it's the proudest thing I've ever done. I see God's hand from the very beginning of everything we've done to today. I've seen it. I know that I made the right decision, as scared as I was. But I also saw the other side, which many of the members of the Republic still can't see, which is that many of them are just a bunch of complaining U.S. citizens, and that they need to address that internally amongst themselves and come out of her, which is pledge to the corporation. And by the way, the corporation's tentacles are worldwide. Are all managed within the district of Goddess of Death and Destruction. And I can get into why I know what I know. And so the element of this is going to be wild. The element of this is going to be biblical. I mean, that's the only way to look at it. But I see the hand of God and the protection of God through the whole thing. And that, I know a lot of people are looking for a rapture. No, we're not going to be here. I don't need to agree or disagree with that. That's not my position. I'm going to hold strong until his return. And if I happen to get pulled away for a feast for a short while and get served by Jesus, cool. If I don't, I will fight to the end of end days, as long as I have breath, to serve my God here in any capacity that he has me serving him. But I see a very merciful, gracious, loving Father, and what His Son has done. And I believe that all of good and evil is about to collide, and God obviously wins. And so this is going to be interesting to watch it all play out. But this is the video of videos, and God, I hope I'm right. I know the Word is right, and I know we have protections within the Word. I know I've taken the right steps. I know I've dedicated my life to that cause. Let's see what happens, Sandy. Any closing comments?
No, just to reiterate the same things we've been saying, which is God has a plan, and He's asking all of us to do our part. It might be something really subtle. It might be something that like smacks you on the side of the head as you lose your job, and suddenly something else shows up in front of you, and you're like, am I supposed to be doing that? That's kind of what's happened to me, with thinking that I was supposed to be teaching physics at the Air Force Academy for lots and lots of years, and then to find myself doing something completely different. So I'm with you. I'm going to do what God asks me to do to the best of my abilities, but as soon as I can hand off the responsibilities, I don't feel like I'm the best person for those kinds of jobs. But if that's what God says, no, I need you to stay there and I need you to do this other thing, I'm like, okay,
And I agree. If I hear that from God, okay, I'm going to argue. I'll be honest. I'm going to argue with him a little bit, and he'll noogie me, and he'll wrestle me.
He'll give you a noogie.
But he's my dad, and I'm going to listen to him. That's the bottom line. But I appreciate you coming on again, and I think we should probably get together every so often just to kind of see what you're finding out or updating, and vice versa. But I thank you for your service, and I don't mean service necessarily in the military, but I mean service in the form of to the Republic. And that we cover everything that's happening there in the next couple of weeks, and that God does a big work through all that. I know what we did is lawful. I know what we did is going to have major ramifications on how this nation plays out in the next several years. But I see it in the transition of watching the old fall and bringing in the kingdom. That's a little bit of a big prediction, but holy smokes, I was taken back when they registered the chip 666. I was taken back when we found out what we found out about these things we're being told to put in us. I was taken back by a lot of things that are so conspiratorial, so demonic, that how could they want to end the world like they're trying? And this is when God is stepping in going, okay, you want to play with me? You want a piece of me? I see a big judgment coming. But for the record, guys, if you have Google, Apple, Amazon, Roku, Samsung, LG, please go look for the His Advocates TV channel. On your phones, there's His Advocates and His Advocates TV. Download the His Advocates TV. We're trying to get rid of the other one. But when we go live, you're going to be able to watch this live right on your cell phone, and so you can have notifications through the app, but you can also have notifications if you text the word freedom to 855-452-0499. We thank you for joining us again, and I very much look forward to having further conversations with you, and God bless. I hope you have a great evening, and good night.
God bless.